Hello, everyone. Today, we're diving deep into Clause 8.0 of the FIDIC Yellow Book 1999, focusing on the commencement, delays, and suspension. We've created a comprehensive flowchart to help you visualize the sequence of activities, roles, and responsibilities. So, let's get started. Receipt of letter of acceptance. Our journey begins when the contractor receives the letter of acceptance. This is a pivotal moment because it signifies the formal award of the contract. It's the green light that sets everything in motion. Wait for engineer's notice. After receiving this letter, the contractor's next move is to wait for the engineer to provide a notice specifying the commencement date. This is crucial because it sets the timeline for when the work should begin. Notice received within 7 days. Here we come to our first decision point. The engineer is obligated to give at least a 7-day notice for the commencement date. If this happens, great. We move on to setting the commencement date. If not, then the contractor should refer to the particular conditions of the contract for guidance. Refer to particular conditions. If the engineer's notice isn't received within the stipulated 7 days, the contractor should consult the particular conditions. These conditions may have specific provisions that dictate what happens next. Stated in particular conditions. This is another critical decision point. If the particular conditions specify the commencement date, then that date is set. If not, then by default, the commencement date should be within 42 days after receiving the letter of acceptance. This is a safeguard to ensure that work begins in a timely manner. Commence design and execution. Once the commencement date is clear, the contractor is responsible for starting the design and execution of the works. This is where the rubber meets the road, and actual construction activities begin. Contractor commences design and execution. The contractor is expected to proceed with the works with due expedition and without delay. This means no stalling. The work should move forward as efficiently as possible.
Receipt of notice under 8.1. The process kicks off when the contractor receives the notice under subclause 8.1, which is about the commencement of works. This is the trigger for the contractor to start preparing the detailed time program. Submit initial program within 28 days. Within 28 days of receiving this notice, the contractor must submit an initial time program to the engineer. This is a critical first step and sets the stage for the entire project. Components of the program. The program should be comprehensive and include several key elements. Order of work. This includes the timing of each stage like design, procurement, construction, and so on. Review periods. The program should also specify the periods for reviews under subclause 5.2 and any other submissions, approvals, and consents. Inspections and tests. The sequence and timing of all inspections and tests specified in the contract must also be included. Supporting report. Alongside the program, a supporting report should be submitted. This report should describe the methods to be used and the major stages in the execution of the works. It should also provide an estimate of the number of personnel and types of equipment required. Engineers review within 21 days. Once the engineer receives the program, they have 21 days to review it. If the engineer does not give notice stating non-compliance within this period, the contractor can proceed according to the submitted program. Monitoring and updating the program. The contractor is responsible for continuously monitoring and updating the program. If there are any adverse events or circumstances that may affect the work, the contractor must promptly notify the engineer. Engineer's actions. Upon receiving such notice, the engineer may require the contractor to submit an estimate of the anticipated effects and/or a proposal under subclause 13.3. Engineer's notice for non-compliance. If the engineer notices that the program fails to comply with the contract, they can instruct the contractor to submit a revised program.
Contractor follows procedures. The journey begins when the contractor diligently follows the procedures laid down by the relevant legally constituted public authorities in the country. This is the foundation upon which the rest of the clause is built. Authorities delay or disrupt work. The next critical question is whether these authorities delay or disrupt the contractor's work. If the answer is no, then there's no cause for an extension of time under subclause 8.4b. and the process ends here. Was the delay unforeseeable? However, if the authorities do cause a delay or disruption, the contractor must then assess whether this delay was unforeseeable. If it was, then the contractor has a valid cause for an extension of time under subclause 8.4b. There are two possible endpoints. If the delay or disruption was unforeseeable, then it's a valid cause for an extension under 8.4b. If not, then there's no cause for an extension, and the contractor must proceed without it.
Delay in completion. The process starts when there is a delay in the completion of the works. The contractor must first identify if this delay is due to any of the causes listed in the clause, such as variations, adverse climatic conditions, or actions by the employer. Is delay due to any listed cause? If the delay is not due to any of the listed causes, the contractor is not entitled to an extension and the process ends. However, if the delay is due to a listed cause, the contractor must give notice to the engineer. Contractor gives notice to engineer. Upon identifying a valid cause for delay, the contractor is required to give notice to the engineer in accordance with subclause 20.1, which deals with contractor's claims. Engineer reviews previous determinations. The engineer then reviews any previous determinations related to extensions of time. This is a critical step as it sets the stage for the final decision. Engineer determines extension. The engineer has the authority to determine the extension of time. Importantly, the engineer may increase but is not allowed to decrease the total extension of time previously determined.
Slow progress or behind schedule. The journey begins when the contractor's progress is either too slow to complete within the time for completion, or falls behind the current program. This triggers the engineer's involvement. Is delay due to listed cause in 8.4? The engineer first checks if the delay is due to any cause listed in clause 8.4. If it is, then the contractor should follow the procedures under that clause, and the process ends here. Engineer instructs revised program. If the delay is not due to a listed cause in clause 8.4, the engineer may instruct the contractor to submit a revised program under clause 8.3. Engineer approves or disapproves. The engineer reviews the revised methods. If approved, the contractor adopts these revised methods, which may require increases in working hours or resources. Additional costs to employer. If these revised methods result in additional costs to the employer, the contractor is obligated to pay these costs, in addition to any delayed damages under clause 8.7.
Contractor fails to comply with 8.2. The flowchart begins when the contractor fails to meet the time for completion as specified in subclause 8.2. This is the triggering event for the entire process outlined in clause 8.7. Subject to 2.5. Employer's claims. Before any delay damages are calculated, the process is subject to subclause 2.5, which deals with the employer's claims. This is an important precondition that must be met. Calculate delay damages. Once the employer's claims under subclause 2.5 are considered, the next step is to calculate the delay damages. These are usually specified in the appendix to tender. Payment for every elapsed day. The contractor is liable to pay the employer for every day that elapses between the time for completion and the date stated in the taking over certificate. This is a daily penalty designed to incentivize timely completion. Check maximum amount in appendix. It's crucial to note that the total amount of delay damages cannot exceed the maximum amount stated in the appendix to tender. This is a cap on the contractor's liability for delays. Issue taking over certificate. Once the delay damages are calculated and paid, the employer issues a taking over certificate. This is a formal document that signifies the employer's acceptance of the works, albeit delayed. Only damages due. These delay damages are the only damages due from the contractor for such default, unless the contract is terminated under subclause 15.2. Obligation to complete works. Paying delay damages does not relieve the contractor from their obligation to complete the works. They must still fulfill all other duties, obligations, or responsibilities under the contract. Other duties and responsibilities. The process concludes with the contractor continuing to meet their other duties and responsibilities under the contract.
The engineer has the authority to instruct the contractor to suspend part or all of the works. Upon receiving this instruction, the contractor is obligated to protect, store, and secure the works against any deterioration, loss, or damage. Now, the engineer may or may not notify the cause for the suspension. If the cause is notified and it's the responsibility of the contractor, then subclauses 8.9, 8.10, and 8.11 will not apply. This is a critical juncture because it determines the contractor's rights to claim for delays or additional costs. If the cause is either not notified or is not the contractor's responsibility, we move on to the consequences of suspension, under Clause 8.9. Here, the contractor can give notice to the engineer if they suffer delay and/or incur additional costs due to the suspension. The engineer then proceeds in accordance with subclause 3.5 to agree or determine these matters. It's important to note that the contractor is not entitled to an extension of time or payment for costs incurred due to their own faulty design, workmanship, or materials. Nor are they entitled if they fail to protect, store, or secure the works as required. Now, let's talk about Clause 8.10, which deals with payment for plant and materials in event of suspension. The contractor is entitled to payment if the work on plant or delivery of plant and/or materials has been suspended for more than 28 days. However, these must be marked as the employer's property as per the engineer's instructions. Clause 8.11 addresses prolonged suspension. If the suspension has continued for more than 84 days, the contractor may request permission to proceed. If permission is not granted within 28 days, the contractor can treat the suspension as an omission under Clause 13 or even give notice of termination under subclause 16.2. Finally, upon resumption of work, as per Clause 8.12, both the contractor and the engineer are required to jointly examine the works and the plant and materials affected by the suspension. The contractor is responsible for making good any deterioration or defects that occurred during the suspension. And that wraps up our detailed walkthrough of Clauses 8 Commencement, delays and suspension in the FIDIC Yellow Book 1999. Understanding these clauses is essential for both the contractor and the employer to manage risks and responsibilities effectively. Thank you for listening. If you find information provided in this video useful, please hit that like button and hit the subscribe button to stay updated with latest updates on the new clauses. You can always find the detailed information shared in video at our website. The link to this clause is provided in the description. That's all for now.